Every year, about 68,000 workers are injured by falling at a construction site. Nearly 100 of these workers die as a result of their injuries, making falls the leading cause of work-related death for construction workers. These accidents are generally not complex events, yet they are usually caused by a combination of factors. Sometimes workers don't know when or how to use fall protection. Other times they're not sure which protective system is the best choice for the job. Based on studies, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, believes that virtually all deaths that occur as a result of a fall could be prevented by using some type of fall protection. As a result, the fall protection standard has been updated. This video is your guide to the revised standard. You'll see when fall protection is required, as well as the various fall protection systems from which you can choose.
The new standards in fall prevention have been designed to reduce the number of accidents and injuries due to falls in construction. The old standard did not provide enough detail for the employer to have a guideline of what to do for fall protection, wherein the new standard now says anything over 6 foot must be protected to prevent an employee from falling.
The fall protection standard is designed to protect anyone who works on, over, or around unprotected elevated surfaces, leading edges, hoist areas, holes, formwork and reinforcing steel, ramps, runways and walkways, excavations, dangerous equipment, wall openings, low slope and steep roofs. Overhand bricklaying and related work, precast concrete erection, and residential construction are also covered by the standard. There are a few definitions that will help you understand this standard. Overhand bricklaying refers to work settings where a mason must lean over a wall to lay bricks. Related work includes mason tending and electrical installations that must be placed in a brick wall. And a leading edge is the edge of a floor, roof, or other surface, a bridge deck for example, which changes location as additional sections are placed or formed. A leading edge is considered an unprotected side when it's not under construction. There are other safety standards that deal with fall protection if your work involves scaffolds, cranes, derricks, steel erection, underground construction, power transmission and distribution, stairways, or ladders. The most important part of the revised standard is the selection of the proper fall protection system for a construction site. While guardrails, safety nets, or personal fall arrest systems are the most conventional fall protection devices, there are several others available. We'll review the requirements for all of them. Keep in mind that a construction company may use more than one of these systems at each site.
It is the responsibility of the employer to determine when fall protection is required and to install fall protection as required by the standard. It is additionally required by the employer to provide the training to the employees in using fall protection. However, it's the employee's responsibility to wear the fall protection, to inspect the system, and to be sure that they comply with the directions given to them by the employer during the training.
One of the most common fall protection systems is the use of guardrails. Here are some requirements for their use. The top edge of a guardrail system must be 42 inches, plus or minus 3 inches, above the walking working level. If you use drywall stilts, add the height of the stilts to the top edge height. The top rail must also be designed and constructed to support, without failure, at least 200 pounds of pressure and remain at least 39 inches high when a downward force is applied. When there isn't a wall or parapet wall at least 21 inches high, a mid-rail, which can support 150 pounds of pressure, must be placed halfway between the top rail and the working surface. Wood, pipe, or wire are commonly used for guardrails. If wood is used, the supporting posts can be no more than 8 feet apart. If wire is used for the top rail, mark it at 6-foot intervals with a high visibility material. This wire must also be at least 1/4 of an inch thick so it doesn't cut the skin or snag clothing. Also, don't extend the top rail or mid-rails over the end posts, unless the overhang won't present a projection hazard. Guardrails are placed around all unprotected edges of ramps, runways, and holes. If the hole or opening is used to pass materials from level to level, two sides of the guardrail can be removable sections, but make sure the hole is covered or completely surrounded by guardrails when it's not in use or under supervision. Also, place a chain, gate, or removable section across the opening of a hoist area when hoisting operations are not taking place or when the area is left unattended for any period of time. If part of a guardrail system must be removed for leading edge work, only the section around that day's work can be taken down. The removed section must be replaced at the completion of that day's work. Safety net systems are commonly used at high-rise construction sites and at some bridge sites. Place nets as close as possible to the working surface so that they won't contact any structure or surface below if something falls into them. Safety nets should never be used more than 30 feet below the working surface. And the fall area from the working surface to the net must be free of any obstructions. Extend safety nets out from the working surface so that they can catch anyone or anything that falls. For instance, if the safety net is 7 feet below the work surface, the minimum distance from the outer edge must be 10 feet. The most important feature in a safety net is its ability to absorb impact. To check this, drop tests are done at the job site. Drop tests must be done before a safety net can be used and after any major repair to the system. If a safety net is left in one place for extended periods of time, it must be drop tested every 6 months. To do the test, drop a 400-pound sandbag 28 to 32 inches in diameter into the net from the highest working surface. The standard requires that you drop the sandbag from at least 42 inches above the working surface. Inspect safety nets each week for wear, damage, or deterioration, and remove any defective net from service. Remove anything that falls into the safety net, tools, scrap pieces, or equipment, as soon as possible, and at least before the next work shift begins. A safety net should also be inspected after anything is dropped into it that might affect the strength and stability of the system. The purpose of a personal fall arrest system is to support your body in case you should fall. Each system consists of an anchorage, connectors, and a harness. It can also include a lanyard, deceleration device, or lifeline. These pieces all connect with each other to support the body in case of a fall. Each of these components must meet specific standards and be inspected before each use for wear and damage. Here are some examples. Anchorages used on personal fall arrest equipment must be able to support at least 5,000 pounds per attached worker, and they must be independent of anchors used to support platforms. Connectors must be corrosion resistant and have a smooth surface so they can't damage any parts of the system. Snap hooks must be designed so they can't unexpectedly roll out and unhook. And here's an important note about snap hooks. Only the locking type can be used after January 1st, 1998. Harnesses are worn to support your body in case of a fall. A personal fall arrest system using a full body harness must limit the maximum arresting force to 1,800 pounds. This device encircles the waist, shoulders, and legs and has a D-ring in the center of the back, usually shoulder level, for connecting a lanyard or other device. A harness distributes the impact of a fall to the trunk and body, which reduces the blow to the abdomen. A lanyard is a flexible rope or strap that has a connector on each end for hooking the harness to a deceleration device, a lifeline, or anchorage. Lanyards used in fall protection systems must be tied off so that the free fall distance is limited to 6 feet. A shock-absorbing lanyard is recommended for use with all personal fall arrest systems. A lifeline can be connected to an anchorage at one end for use as a vertical lifeline, or connected to anchorages at both ends to make a horizontal lifeline. Here's an important point about horizontal lifelines. Depending on the angle of sag, a horizontal lifeline can place an excessive impact force on the anchorages. For instance, if a lifeline sags only 2 degrees, a force of over 71,000 pounds is placed on the anchorages, while a 30-degree sag reduces that force to 5,000 pounds, the limit allowed on anchorages. Lifelines are generally used along with a rope grab. This allows you to move along the line without stopping to unhook and tie off again. If a self-retracting lifeline is used, keep it directly above your head to eliminate the swing hazard if you fall. Self-retracting lifelines and lanyards must also be able to sustain a minimum load of 3,000 to 5,000 pounds, depending on the free fall distance allowed by the device. Here's another important requirement for lifelines. For added safety, the design, installation, and use of a horizontal lifeline must be supervised by a qualified person. OSHA defines a qualified person as one who has a recognized degree, certificate, or professional standing in their field, or has extensive knowledge, training, and experience, and has proven their ability to solve problems related to the subject. If you use a vertical lifeline, each worker must be attached separately. Since the purpose of a personal fall arrest system is to stop a free fall, the system must be rigged so that you can't fall more than 6 feet or come in contact with the lower level. To lessen the free fall distance and ensure that the lanyard won't interfere with your movement, the tie-off point should be at or above the D-ring on your harness.
In the event of a fall, the standard requires the employer to provide for a prompt rescue. All components of the fall protection system must be taken out of service and must be inspected by a competent individual. It is recommended that all components of the fall arrest system be sent back to the manufacturer for inspection, repair, or replacement.
A positioning device is similar to a personal fall arrest system and even uses some of the same components. The difference is that a fall arrest system is designed to stop a fall, while a positioning device is used to hold you in position so that you can't fall while you're working. It also allows you to use both hands for your work. A positioning device does not, however, protect you while you're moving. Here are a few points about the components used in a positioning device. Lanyards that are used with a positioning device should be kept as short as possible to prevent you from free falling more than 2 feet. These lanyards must also be able to support at least 2 times the force of a fall. A body belt used with a positioning device has 2 side D-rings. Note that these belts can only be used to hold you in place while you are working and can't be used for fall protection. As with personal fall arrest systems, all positioning devices must be inspected before each use for wear, damage, and defective parts. Body belts, harnesses, and all components can only be used as part of a personal fall arrest or positioning device system, not to hoist materials. A warning line is used to alert you to the fact that you're near an unprotected edge. They're used in situations where it isn't feasible or would create a greater hazard to use a conventional fall protection system. Rope, wire, or chain marked every 6 feet with a highly visible material can be used as a warning line. The line can be no lower than 34 inches from the working surface and no higher than 39 inches. The posts that support the line must be able to withstand at least 16 pounds of pressure without tipping over. The line itself must be attached to the posts so that if it's pulled in one area, it doesn't take up the slack in another. The use of mechanical equipment with a warning line system is another concern. OSHA defines mechanical equipment as any motor or human-propelled wheeled equipment used for roofing, except wheelbarrows and mop carts. If such equipment is in use, the warning line must be at least 6 feet from the roof edge parallel to the equipment and not less than 10 feet from the perpendicular edge. When mechanical equipment isn't being used, keep the warning line at least 6 feet from any roof edge. Mechanical equipment can only be used or stored where a warning line, guardrail, or personal fall arrest system is in place. A walkway formed by two warning lines is required to connect materials handling, storage, and hoisting areas to the main work area. When these walkways aren't needed, they must be roped off to keep people out of the work area. Only those doing roofing work are permitted between the roof edge and the warning line, and then only if they're using another form of fall protection. Controlled access zones restrict entry to overhand bricklaying and leading edge work areas where conventional fall protection systems can't be used or may create a greater hazard. These zones are also required where work is done under a fall protection plan. In order to use a controlled access zone for overhand bricklaying, workers must not reach more than 10 inches below the working level to do the work. A controlled access zone is marked off by control lines made of rope, wire, or tape supported by posts and placed parallel to and at least 6 feet but not over 25 feet from the leading edge. In overhand bricklaying areas, the lines must be between 10 and 15 feet from the leading edge. Control lines must also have at least a 200-pound breaking strength. When you're erecting precast concrete units, the control line must be at least 60 feet from the leading edge, or half the length of the unit being erected, whichever is less. The control line should run the full length of the leading edge and be connected on each side to a guardrail, post, or wall. A control line must be between 39 and 45 inches from the working surface, including its highest and lowest points. There's an exception for overhand bricklaying areas where the highest point can be 50 inches. A controlled access zone includes all entry points, as well as materials handling and storage areas, and is restricted to workers who are doing overhand bricklaying or other leading edge work. No other workers are permitted in this area. A safety monitoring system consists of a competent person who is responsible for recognizing fall hazards and warning workers about them. A competent person not only understands the hazards, but has the authority to take actions to eliminate them. Safety monitoring systems are used to protect workers on low-sloped roofs, in leading-edge work operations, and in precast concrete or residential construction. Here's how it works. The employer selects a safety monitor to warn all other workers of fall hazards and unsafe work practices. The safety monitor can have no other responsibilities that would interfere with the monitoring functions. In addition, monitors must be on the same working level as the workers. In other words, close enough to see them and talk with them. Only roofers and other workers covered by a fall protection plan can be in this work area. In addition, mechanical equipment can't be used or stored on low-sloped roof areas if a safety monitoring system is in place. Workers in controlled access zones must comply with the safety monitor's warnings. Covers are used to prevent workers from falling through holes in floors, roofs, or other working surfaces. They must be secured in place, strong enough to support the weight placed on them, and well marked for easy identification. For example, roadway covers must support at least 2 times the maximum axle weight of a largest vehicle it could cross over the cover. Other covers must hold at least twice the weight of workers, equipment, and materials that could be on the cover at any given time. The standard also states that these weights must be supported without failure. All covers other than cast iron manhole covers or steel grates must be color-coded or marked with the word hole or cover to point out the hazard. Protection from falling objects lists the requirements for toe boards, guardrails, and canopies that are used to protect workers below from being struck by falling objects. Toe boards are required on the edge of those working surfaces where personnel, vehicles, or equipment pass below. They are intended to catch tools or materials that may be dropped onto the working platform. Toe boards must be at least 3.5 inches high and placed no more than 1/4 inch above the working surface. In addition, they must be designed and constructed to withstand a 50-pound force. If tools or materials are piled higher than the toe board, add paneling or screening from the toe board to the middle or top guardrail, whichever is best, to protect the workers below. Also, the openings in the guardrail must be small enough that tools or materials can't pass through them. When overhand bricklaying is done, only mortar and masonry materials can be stored within 4 feet of the edge. The work area must also be clear of broken materials and debris. Where roofing operations are underway, materials and equipment cannot be stored within 6 feet of the edge unless a guardrail system is in place. Even then, materials stacked near a roof edge must be stable and self-supporting. If a canopy is used to protect workers from falling objects, it must be strong enough to prevent an item from ripping through it or causing it to collapse. There are several construction sites where leading-edge work is done, for example, when the use of guardrails, safety nets, or a personal fall arrest system just isn't feasible, or where these devices may present an even greater hazard to the workers. If an employer can prove that it's not possible or practical to use a conventional fall protection system, a fall protection plan can be used. It's important to note that this option is only available to those working in leading-edge, precast concrete erection, or residential construction. Here are the requirements for using a fall protection plan. The plan must be designed for each specific worksite by a qualified person. All changes to keep the plan current must be approved by a qualified person. A copy of that plan with any changes noted must be kept on site. The plan must state why conventional fall protection systems can't be used and show how workers will be protected from fall hazards. Locations where conventional fall protection systems can't be used will be classified and regulated as controlled access zones. The plan must also include the identity of workers in the controlled access zones. If no other fall protection measure is used, workers at the job site must be protected by a safety monitoring system. Any fall or accident must be investigated to see if the fall protection plan should be changed to provide better protection to the workers. A fall protection plan must be under the direction of a competent person, one who can identify fall hazards and has the authority to take measures that can prevent them.
There are many ways to prevent falls in construction. It's up to the employer to determine when fall protection is required and to provide fall protection equipment. But it's up to you to use it. It may be dangerous up there, but utilizing fall protection will prevent injuries and also may save your life.